On October 28, 1929, also known as Black Monday, the stock market dropped a whopping 12%. On October 29, 1929, also known as Black Tuesday, the stock market dropped another 12%. 60 millions of shares were traded in. The stock market crash was a terrible crash that marked a devastating time period in history. The 1929 stock market crash caused millions of dollars to be lost and caused billions of people to fall into poverty. The market continued to drop. The banks were full of people attempting to pull their savings out or sell their stocks. It drove people into chaos. The 1929 stock market crash was a major American stock crash that occurred in the autumn of 1929. This crash scarred the economic system and the government. This was a turning point in history since it caused the government to change the way loans and stocks are received and created a difference in the way people buy stocks. After the crash on October 29, William C. Durant, members of the Rockefeller family, and other financial giants bought large amounts of stocks, hoping to stop the large decline in prices. Unfortunately, their efforts were in vain. The stock market continued to drop. The stock market crash triggered a crisis in the international economy. A rash of bank failures followed in 1930, and as the Dust Bowl increased the number of farm foreclosures, unemployment toppled 20% by 1933. Many attempts were made to stop the decline in stocks and prices, but they all failed. On October 22, 1932, President Herbert Hoover, wanting to win the next re-election, came forth with a speech on October 22, 1929.
My fellow citizens, the most important issue before the American people right now is to overcome this crisis. What our people need is the restoration of their normal jobs, the recovery of agricultural prices, and of business. They need help in the meantime to tide them over until these things can be accomplished, and that they may not go hungry nor lose their farms and their homes. I wish to present to you the evidence that the measures and the policies of the Republican administration are winning this major battle for recovery. And we are taking care of distress in the meantime. It can be demonstrated that the tide has turned and the gigantic forces of depression are today in retreat.
President Herbert Hoover's attempts to reassure the United States failed. Thousands of unemployed men greeted him at the train station with signs like "Hoover fake" or "lies." President Herbert Hoover lost the election and President Roosevelt took office. President D. Roosevelt was left in a mess. Because of the 1929 stock market crash and other factors, the United States was in the middle of the Great Depression. Millions of people were bankrupt and in need of jobs and money. He immediately got to work, and 1 year after the election, he created the New Deal. New Deal was a series of programs and projects passed by President D. Roosevelt. After taking office in 1933, he quickly worked to stabilize the economy and provide jobs to those in poverty. In his next 8 years, he put out a series of New Deal projects. The CCC, the WPA, the TVA are just a few examples. The New Deal fundamentally changed the federal government by changing its role in the economy. The 1929 stock market crash was so disastrous that it ripped a hole in the United States of America. So many problems were needed to be tended to. The New Deal was the solution to those issues. The project and plan in it tended to each and every one of the problems. One of the New Deal programs was the Civilian Conservation Corps, known as CCC, was a voluntary government work relief program that ran from 1933 to 1942. It was for unemployed men ages 17 to 28. It supplied manual labor jobs to help conserve and develop natural resources in lands owned by federalist, state, and local governments. The CCC was supposed to supply jobs for men and help families who had a hard time finding jobs in the Great Depression. In the 9 years of operation, the CCC had over 3 million men take part of it. The CCC provided them with shelter, clothing, and food, with a salary of $30 a month. The CCC was responsible for planting over 3 billion trees, building trails, shelters in the national parks, and stopping forest fires. The CCC also brought more appreciation and awareness to the outdoor and the need to protect the earth. The CCC demonstrated how devastating the 1929 stock market were. It put millions out of jobs and caused millions to need shelter and help. It changed the economy and created a more poor neighborhood. In 1929, banks would loan large amounts of money with no concern on losing it. People would read newspapers and invest large amounts of cash. These mistakes sparked the 1929 stock market crash and the Great Depression. The banking has changed since then. Borrowing loans takes longer and has a tougher process. People now spend more wisely and invest in stocks carefully. Before the crash, the stock market was unregulated, and investors could buy stocks on margin. They could borrow money to buy stocks, where people were buying stocks would borrow money hoping to make a quick profit. Many investors lost their money and the stock market crashed. In response to the crash, the U.S. government passed the Security Acts of 1933 and the Security Exchange Act of 1934. These acts established the Securities and Exchange Commission, which regulates the stock market and ensures that companies provide accurate information to investors. The Security Act of 1933 is a federal law that regulates the offer and sale of securities. The act has two primary objectives: to require companies to provide investors with financial and other significant information about securities being offered for public sale, and to prohibit deceit, misrepresentations, and other fraud in sales of securities. The Security Exchange Act of 1934 is a law that regulates the trading of securities in the U.S. and creates the Security and Exchange Commission to oversee and enforce it. It aims to protect investors from fraud and ensure companies disclose important information. It regulates security markets and trading practices, prohibits insider trading and market manipulation, and enforces action and penalties for violations. All in all, the 1929 stock market crash permanently affected the banking system, took the lives of millions, and created federal laws. It changed stock purchasing and selling and loan dealing. It caused the nation to become more secure and more structured. The stock market crash put us through a Great Depression and caused suffering to all, and it still has effects till this day. Although there is so much pain and suffering, it made the nation stronger and greater.